filming? Look, here's another brilliant piece. This is what you call treasure. This is brilliant.
I have a feeling that, I guess as long as it's been a positive experience, which my childhood was very, very happy, that once you've grown up by the sea, I think that's where you connect. So I think there's a feeling of always being at home by the sea, actually by water. So if I can't get to the wide open sea and be by coast, I think the Thames is probably as near as I get to it in London. It is my beach in London. Yeah, so I think that's without doubt why I do feel a very, very strong connection with the Thames.
It's one of the things that I've learned since I've been collecting found objects is that you have to be really focused on what you collect, and unfortunately a lot of students pick stuff up and then leave it with me. So I've got a lot of things that I may or may not be able to use, but I've also got some lovely things too. I've got, as usual, the pipes. That one's been carved with a name on it by the looks of it. Van Stadel, I think that says. So.
What do you like about using found objects in your art?
I like the quirkiness of them. I like the fact that you never know what you're going to find, and I like that you can. It gives it a different context because you've got the historical context of the pieces, and also the coming and going of the tides and the coming and going of the people who held and used these objects. So that's why I like them. I love putting things together. Brody. He's a class mascot. He always comes to St John with me.
I'm in a world of my own, and all you're thinking about is just your art, really, which is great. Great way to turn off. And the time just goes so fast.
So, Sue, you said you used to live by the coast. Do you still get to go back there much? Or?
Well, probably not as much as I would like. I grew up in Southend-on-Sea in Essex, spent all my childhood there, running fairly wild and barefoot on the beach. Sadly, I didn't take art at school. I went to quite a strict all-girls grammar school, and you really fell into one camp if you were vaguely academic, which I was. You did academic subjects, and it wasn't really until I had my own children in the early 30s, my working life changed dramatically. My background had been in advertising and marketing. Certainly that industry doesn't really go very well together with motherhood, long working hours, very demanding clients. And then my husband bought me a taster course in silver jewellery, and at the outset I was smitten, totally and utterly addicted, and I just knew instantly this was the art that I was connected with and wanted to pursue.
I used to love art when I was a kid, but in the 60s the art classes weren't very good really. I mean, they just got you doing posters and bits and pieces with poster paint, and that was about it. But I was very good at figures, and I was always first in the class, but when it came to the exam, we had a new teacher and we were all told to do this specific question in our O-levels, which I nearly died. It was an abstract. So I didn't pass. There was only myself and the guy who was always bottom that failed. So that was just absolutely horrendous. So I vowed never to touch abstracts again. It put me off art for ages.
So I don't know whether to do it with this cleaning before doing the grout or not.
I came from a background where nobody's creative, although they probably are, but it was just, you know, well, no, you've got to be a bit more sensible, a bit more grown up, you've got to get a job and study and things like that. And I did all of that, and that was fine. But then after about 7 years of doing that, I was made redundant, and at that point I thought, no, well, this is really, I've got to start doing what I think I want to be doing, rather than sort of like the now or never time. So it was good for me to be made redundant. Yeah.
When I was at work, working in the city, ridiculous hours, I actually ended up with a breakdown. So, I mean, that was just awful. It was an awful time. And I suppose that made me get back into my art again as well, because I started a small visual diary, which was great fun to do. And now looking back on it, so I thought, oh God, yeah, you know, all these memories. So that took me out of the place where I was in, if you like, which was really not very nice. So, but we're all right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was actually the original that I then had transferred onto these old wooden panels. So they're for my dad, and I've showed those posthumously. The other one, which is over here, and this is one that I really, really love. Let me just turn these around so I don't distort. Okay, so here clearly is this boat theme again. Family obsessed with boats and beaches. They moved down from, as many Cockneys did, from the East End of London, and moved down to the coast. And certainly my father instilled in me an absolute love of the coast. We talked earlier about going down to Leigh-on-Sea, which is where the last place he lived down there, and my last home down there as a teenager. And it would just be a joy to say, right, let's get in the car, go to Old Leigh, eat cockles, drink beer and sit and look at boats. And I think the sheer joy of it just perhaps is what's inspired us all, and certainly inspired our art.
So in a way, does your art sort of help you?
Yeah, very much. And I was looking into doing art therapy, becoming an art therapist, but again, you had to, it was too disciplined for me. And I work intuitively. I can't work with a set goal in mind either. Sort of what happens on the canvas, all the lovely, happy mistakes, etc., etc., which you can then form into other pieces of work. So that's the joy of it. That's the joy of it. And it's normally a mess. I did try and tidy it up a bit today for you lot. But out of chaos, we hope comes a little bit of perfection somewhere along the line.
I think the main thing that makes me want to make is to fulfill my need to be creative. I need to keep making. As I said, everyone's creative. It's just finding the right time in your life to start expressing it. I think it's important to remember that people have always lived, or for centuries have lived in London, have worked in London, have probably experienced a lot of the things that we're experiencing now as a culture and a population. You know, things like dealing with not having much money, about being worried about the future. And it's quite heartening, really, if you think about that and how they survived and that humanity's carried on. And you could say that the tides washed over it, but the spirit of people continues, and I think that's what's important, and that's what I feel a lot when I go down to the Thames, that there's a real sense of continuity.